award him with a recognition for his commendable contributions to arbitration and ADR.
As a university, we are very happy to team up with the Charter Institute for Arbitrators. In fact, we have done quite a number of things together. We are very happy to host them. I think it's a win-win situation because our duty as a university forming the lawyers of the future is not to make the mistakes of the past, and is to teach them that law is more about justice. This sounds very idealistic, but it's real, and if it is sustainable, they will make more money because they will be the agents of change who resolve the problems. What perhaps we as lawyers did not do or did not know how to teach, they will do it. Lawyers are the lubricant, the oil of society, of relationships. And of course, if we are constantly with the adversarial attitude, we destroy those relationships.
Since recognition of alternative dispute resolution under the Constitution, there's been a lot of growth that has been experienced in this sector over the last several years. That is not to say that there wasn't ADR before, but there is renewed interest in alternative forms of dispute resolution. One of them, of course, being the key focus to arbitration, mediation, and to adjudication. All these have been recognized as key processes for resolving disputes among parties and maintaining relationships in the process, and while also keeping an eye on the cost of these processes. Indeed, it is the pleasure of the Institute to be able to focus our attention on sensitizing not only our members but also the general public on the very aspects and developments within the ADR community, and also to promote and enhance the use of alternative forms of dispute resolution in multi-sectoral policy engagements, as well as to push for appropriate legislation to be able to guide those processes.
Kenya has many qualified and experienced arbitrators who are involved in arbitrating commercial disputes around Africa. Following the revival of the East African community and the expansion of regional trade, the probability of Nairobi becoming a regional center for arbitration is very high. The use of arbitration is therefore critical in Kenya as regards the settlement of disputes, not only in commercial matters, but also in settling intergovernmental disputes such as between county governments and the national government, as envisaged in Article 189 of the Constitution. There is no doubt that the scope for the application of arbitration has been extensively widened by the Constitution and other laws which have come into the statute book as required by the Constitution. The status of arbitration has been elevated, and its applicability to a wide array of disputes can only see expansion in the future. There are, however, a number of problems facing practitioners, including the fact that the practice of arbitration in Kenya continues to be frustrated by litigious parties who want to challenge not only the procedure, but also the findings of arbitral tribunals in court.
It is with great pleasure that the Institute has organized this first annual lecture event as a platform to bring members and all stakeholders together for a time to consider, deliberate, and brainstorm on matters arbitration. It was thought that we would also take this time to recognize exemplary members of the branch who have worked with us, supported and worked tirelessly to turn it into the premier training institute it is today. In this first inaugural lecture event, we are delighted to acknowledge and appreciate one of our more senior members, arbitrators, who was one of the branch's earliest members and very active until just a few years ago. This is none other than QS Adam Singidura Marjan, CIArb and Chartered Arbitrator. Mr. Marjan has impacted upon and made noteworthy contributions to the fields of quantity survey, architecture, arbitration, and ADR. QS Marjan began his career in quantity survey after graduating from the University of Nairobi in 1973 with an honors degree in building economics. From there, he served extensively as a quantity surveyor, participating in construction projects over the past 44 years in Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, and Ethiopia. He is Senior and Managing Partner of Davson and Ward, Quantity Surveyors, Building Economics and Project Managers. He was part-time lecturer and examiner in quantity surveying at Kenya Polytechnic, where he drafted syllabi for various classes of quantity survey assessments, from craft level to higher national diploma in building and civil engineering. He was also a lecturer at the University of Nairobi, as well as chief examiner in quantity surveying with the then East African Examinations Council, and then the Kenya Examination Council for a total of 9 years. He has thrived in leadership within both the quantity survey and architecture professions, the notable ones being Chairman, Board of Education, Chapter of Quantity Surveyors of the Architectural Association of Kenya, Chairman, Chapter of Quantity Surveyors of the Architectural Association of Kenya, Honorary Secretary, AAK, Vice Chairman, Board of Registration of Architects and Quantity Surveyors, and Secretary of Education Board of Registration of Architects and Quantity Surveyors. In arbitration, QS Marjan began his journey in 1982. Following intensive internship and pupillage under QS David Anthony Glover, Frick's Fellow, Chartered Institute, Managing Partner of Davson and Ward, he was assessed by QS Harry Baker Fricks, CIArb of Baker and Barton, and was successfully admitted as an associate of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators. This was followed by a series of trainings locally and abroad, which culminated him becoming secondly a member, then fellow, and finally chartered arbitrator in fast succession. He continues to successfully practice in both arbitration and adjudication. While on this career path, QS Marjan actively engaged in growing the branch alongside other greats such as the late Norman Mururu, Farouk Khan, among others. His passion for teaching continued within the institute. He has been an approved faculty tutor for courses offered by the branch, namely entry course in arbitration, construction adjudication, construction claims course, award writing practice, special member course, fast track accelerated routes to fellowship, and mediation. Mr. Marjan's leadership skills were ably demonstrated when he became chairman of the branch in 2005 and held this position until 2009. His contributions as chairman during his tenure in office are as follows: to have a cohesive and inclusive team who work for the branch and setting up of committees with measurable tasks and goals so as to ensure their realization. At times when necessary, he had to convene to ensure reports and recommendations were delivered in due time. Secondly, sensitization and efficacy on ADR to the public, which at that time was not well known or understood. This involved extensive visits to professional membership associations and corporate bodies. 3. The branch was assessed and classified as a Class D branch in June 2008 and attained semi-autonomous status with a fully fledged faculty to facilitate exams independently on a local level in arbitration, mediation, and adjudication. The involvement, number 4, of legal and infrastructural aspects to set up an arbitration center locally and the raising of funds for the purchase of branch premises. Fifthly, establishment of the remuneration order that is in current use by both arbitrators and mediators. And finally, champion of the change in the Arbitration Act to provide immunity to arbitrators in discharge of their duties. At 69 years of age, QS Marjan continues to be actively involved in arbitration and adjudication, as he is currently one of the 3 members of the Dispute Arbitration Board on the Mombasa Port Development Project, an ongoing project worth US dollars 270 million. Currently, in the spirit of promoting ADR practice, he is engaged in promoting dispute prevention to ensure that costs, quality, and scope of the project are safeguarded. The pursuit of dispute prevention will also serve to ensure that any differences, should they indeed occur, will be handled by persons beyond reproach who will maintain high-level trust and commitment to all parties. As a gentleman in the society, Mr. Marjan strongly believes in giving back to the society and cultivating integrity so as to uphold the trust of the people whom we serve. His parting shot: ADR is as large as the population, and it is all about resource management. Arbitration should now be embedded as the first point of call in dispute resolution. As the branch, we stand together to recognize QS Adam Singidura Marjan and to award him with a recognition for his commendable contributions to arbitration and ADR. Mr. Marjan.
This is a very pivotal moment of pride for the Institute to recognize one of our own for the contributions that they have made to the Institute. When I started teaching within the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators, he was my first student, and incidentally, he had only one slide. And I worked with one slide over a period of 1 hour and learned a lot from him. Let me give Ramajan an opportunity to speak before we can hand over a small gift that we have for him.
The occasion today fills me with lots of joy and emotion. Though the honor is bestowed on me, I am sure that there are many people in this room and or outside the room who would be better deserve it. Indeed, there are many more who have since left us, who sacrificed resources, that is time and money, and never benefited materially for the benefits that we enjoy today in this unique calling of being arbitrators. Here I have the guru of this profession, the late Norman Mururu, who worked tirelessly to have the branch formed. And just like me, you can see when going over the stairs is an effort. We were both outside the country being treated, and later on he passed away. But that is not to say that things have come to an end. Secondly, we also had Justice Mulwa, who contributed quite a lot. And then not to forget, fellowship was a very rare commodity. You could not sit for it here. You had Sister Njeri here mentioning about the branch being upgraded from Class C to Grade D. That was no mean achievement. It took a lot of effort. That's why I'm proud to hear that we've got over 80 fellows. At that time, passing fellowship was so difficult. In fact, people like Justice, the late Kasanga Mulwa, Lee Mudoga, went overseas and still came back and were not successful. So we came back and sat down and said, how do these people pass this examination? It was not until the late Ali Abdul Ghani went overseas and got the formula of passing this examination. And having got this information, that's when we started propagating this. And I'm glad to hear today that we've got over 80 people. Sister Njeri here, we used to sit down and try to figure out how do people become fellows. It was not easy. That's why I'm saying that perhaps those who have left us perhaps deserve this honor much more than me. May I please share with the congregation in attendance what assignments some of us have been involved of late. What I have in mind is dispute avoidance as opposed to dispute resolution. Here, maybe we are mixing up words. Dispute resolution, the chief guest here talked quite a bit about it, but dispute avoidance is what perhaps most of you here are not aware. This is where you consciously, people perhaps could come to you and ask you on your opinion whether what the conflict they are having should proceed to court. You see, most people would say tukutane mbele, that is in court. But before they go there, they come for advice, and we've done so many on this. I'll just give you two examples. One is at the highest level of a board. The board members felt that they were being cheated, and they declined to make the payments. So I don't know how they got hold of my name, and I was called. They briefed me what it was, and indeed, when I looked through, for some of you who are in construction, you may or may not have heard about the Baxter formula. This is a formula where you compensate contractors when costs escalate. And here, the technical staff, the legal staff, had recommended to the board that this amount should be sorted out. And I'm glad that I had already got some training as an arbitrator when I was appointed, and also very glad and proud that I'm a Kundi surveyor. Because not many people would have unearthed the difficulty. It was a claim of over 45 million, and what was finally agreed and paid to the contractor was less than a third. That was 12 million. A formula had been ingrained into the construction contract, whereby at any one time a contractor was being paid for work done, he was being awarded more than 70% more. And of course, since the technical staff, the legal staff had all endorsed it, there was nothing that the board could do except just pay. They were just asking for their consensus to pay. But at that point, because the board were not the only financiers, there were donors, and the donors threatened to pull out. So when I was appointed, I went through, looked through, and found that the formula, which was being called Baxter, it is Baxter D, whereby some coefficients had already been tampered with, so that instead of doing normal compensation, it was actually to enrich everybody. This was particularly a public project. Another assignment in dispute avoidance that's been undertaking was one recently where this particular organization is staffed by many lawyers, and they decided that the contractor and the consultants had to bear the consequences of delay and increased costs. And before they went ahead going to court, I was commissioned to advise on whether they should go to pursue their interests or not. This was an assignment which took me about 3.5 months. I could not do it alone after looking through the problem, and the result was over 150 pages of a report, which had 15 pages of executive report, and finally, for the top guys, I had two pages, which actually summarized the whole thing. And I advised them, please don't waste your time and go to court. Part amicably, pay the contractor what you are holding, and part ways, because the way you got involved in this project, no sane court or arbitration would give you any award. Fortunately, they accepted, and it's not a small organization. It's a very big organization outside the country for the whole world. And so those are some of the assignments that we've been doing, and this is in furtherance of ADR. I wish to thank the Council for bestowing on me such an honor. Colleagues, as you are aware, everything happens within a context, and it is in this context that I wish to address ourselves to at the moment. The journey of arbitration as a vocation in the country has been long and arduous. Well, maybe I would like to stop here. When we started, the arbitration that we had, one, you could have a parole award, that is whereby people just talk to you and say, this is a problem, and then would just give you a award by word of mouth. This is what it is. And they took it. And then it developed into a barren award. I hope you know what a barren award is, whereby you just state what you give your orders. The respondent should pay the claimant so much. And nobody questioned that there were no challenges. But since then, just like the chief guest here mentioned, the award writing or award process has evolved. And there are these court interventions, which is good, because it gives legitimacy and effective implementation into the award. Challenges that the young arbitrators should be wary of, particularly on public projects. Public projects are bound to abuse, and we have to be very, very careful. Abuse and temptation, and even intimidation. I'll just mention one where I was involved way back in 1990, I think, whereby during cross-examination, I was challenged. The lawyer for the respondent asked the court that his witness should not answer the questions. And I dared and asked, why are you saying that the witness should not answer that question? The other party said, of course, because of credibility. And I went ahead and say, I overruled the objection, and I allowed the witness to say, ladies and gentlemen, what came out of that was quite revealing. And the consequences were grave, because I almost lost my life out of that one. So youngsters must be very careful. Like in Supreme Court ruling or orders, arbitration awards or orders are not subject to appeal, except just like the Chief Justice mentioned, Section 35 and 39. It is to that hope in you, particularly the young arbitrators, I accept this honor today. I accept it on behalf of those who have journeyed this vocation and have been true to the cause. What I can assure you is this: please maintain the values and the virtues of arbitration, and nothing will happen to you. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much, and for listening to this short remarks. Thank you.